Welcome to Age Friendly Cleveland. My name is Mary McNamara, and I'm the director of the Cleveland Department of Aging. Across our country, we have what we call an aging network of services because no one division of government, agency, hospital system, or faith-based group provides all the services an older adult might need to age successfully. As examples, some older adults may need transportation or in-home health care, modifications to the home, or resources for staying engaged after retirement. It is our hope with this Age Friendly Cleveland series that you might learn more about the resources right here in Cleveland. This next segment is about one of the trusted agencies we work closely with every day to make Cleveland an age-friendly city.
We're here with Doug Tayek. He's an Associate State Director with AARP. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
All right. We got lots of questions for you today about your organization. Tell us a little bit more about your mission and the services you provide.
Right. So AARP, we're actually celebrating our 60th year in existence this year. We were launched in 1958 by a great American, great story. A woman was the first female high school principal in the state of California in the history of the state of California, and launched AARP when she met one of her colleagues, former colleagues, who had retired from teaching and was living in a chicken coop because that's all she could afford. She had no financial backing, no retirement package of any kind, and could only afford to live in a chicken coop. So she launched AARP in 1958 as an organization to stand up for the issues and to help back older adults, and to stand up for older adults and to really take care of the folks who have, of our older generations. And we've lived to that, and we've lived up to that mission ever since. We are a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization, and our goal is to help Americans 50 plus. In Ohio, obviously here in Ohio, it's Ohioans 50 and older, and our mission is to help them improve their lives and live the quality of life that they want as they age, and live with no restrictions.
It seems like we have a lot of members here in Ohio. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, so there's 38 million members across the country. There's 1.5 million of those members live in Ohio, and they come from every background and financial background, racial background, ethnicity. It's a great snapshot of the people of the United States and the people of Ohio. And they're very active. They range from age 50 and up. And so you have people who are still working in their 50s and 60s and 70s. You have people who are retired, in their 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. A colleague of mine in Long Island, for example, has to deal with the fact that there are over 100,000 people over the age of 100 on Long Island. So in Ohio, we have similar demographics, similar issues that we face, and so it's an organization that that stands up for people who range age 50 to age 100 and older. So it's our mission to advocate on behalf of them, and to make sure that we are their voice, and take into account all the things that go into aging in the United States, and aging in Ohio. And so that's the 1.5 million members. There's 11 million people in Ohio. It's a pretty significant portion of the state belong to AARP, and we hear their voice and make sure their voice is elevated in all sorts of ways. For our viewers out there who are interested in joining, how can they join? How can they become a member? So you can go online, or you can aarp.org. There's a number of places on there where there's membership. You can call our office if you need to. But basically, it's $16 a year, and that membership is good for your household. It's not just for the individual. So if one member of a couple signs up, the couple itself, they both have access to the membership and all the benefits that come with it. And that's so that $16 is good for the year. It's one of those things that we have not changed the rate of membership in quite a long time, because we want it to be economical and accessible for people. We don't want to price people out of it. You mentioned benefits. What are the benefits of being a member? So everything from access to, a big part of what our membership access is our Medicare supplement plans, or any of the financial planning benefits that we offer. and discounts at local movie theaters. And then obviously you have a voice. You have people who are working on your behalf, and that's I'm paid for by our membership. I tell my volunteers all the time, I work for you. You're members. That's you're my boss, and so they pay for that membership supports our office, and has people like me out and about advocating on behalf of Ohioans over the age of 50.
Part of your mission is to champion social change. Can you give me some examples of that locally and nationally?
Sure. So nationally, last year, especially in 2017, we were very, very active. And we were strong opponents of the American Health Care Act, which was the opportunity that was looked at to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act. And we were very, very outspoken in our leadership and our work against that bill, mostly because we looked at it and we said, it was overly punitive towards older adults, whether it was through the age rating provisions that were in there or the cuts to Medicaid, especially. Older adults use Medicaid at a much higher rate than I think some people appreciate. And so we were very vocal in our opposition to those bills, both in the House side and the Senate side. And that's just one example of how we work nationally. At a local level, we're very involved in what we call livable communities, which is working with local municipalities to identify how they can become more age-friendly. And when we say age-friendly, we mean neighborhoods that are accessible for people, from the age ranges of 8 to 80 and beyond. And so we work right now we're in five communities across the state: Cleveland, Columbus, Cincinnati, Akron, Oxford, and we just added Delaware County, where we are actively working to help make those communities more livable, if you will. And those are all based on the 8 domains of livability, which come out of the World Health Organization, and the AARP Age-Friendly Network. And we can get into that here in a second if you like, but that's just another example. But then also locally, at the state level, we helped pass the Ohio Care Act, which is a really important piece of legislation that allows the 1.4 million Ohio caregivers to access the resources necessary to support their family members who may be in the hospital or coming out of a hospital facility. So that's just a small example of the ways that we work at the federal level, at the state and local level.
You mentioned the CARE Act, okay? It's passed in 2017, right?
It became law in 2017. It was passed at the end of 2016, became law in 2017,
okay.
But close enough.
Tell me about the CARE Act.
Right, so as I mentioned, there are 1.4 million Ohio caregivers, meaning a person who is taking care of a family member, a friend, whether it's a parent or a grandparent or a spouse or a cousin, niece, nephew, friend, whatever. So anybody who's providing care for free for a loved one is considered a caregiver. And so the Ohio Care Act was passed with the idea that as those caregivers provide over $16.5 billion in free health care, essentially, whether it's driving their loved one to an appointment or taking the time to administer medicine or some sort of medical device, they're providing that care for free. What the Ohio Care Act does is it allows that caregiver to access the right tools and information to support their loved one in the best way possible. And so it focuses on 3 areas. One is identification. So during the admission process, a patient designates their family caregiver of choice. And now this is something that doesn't usurp power of attorney or anything like that, but the caregiver, the patient is asked by the hospital to identify a caregiver, and then that caregiver has rights and responsibilities, as does the patient. So as the patient goes through the process, there's other steps that are taken. So notification, for example. So the family caregiver has to be notified if the patient is moved or if the patient's going to be discharged. The hospital can't just discharge the patient. They have to notify that caregiver. And third is training. As a patient is discharged from the hospital, any of the resources that they're going home with, be it medication or some sort of medical device, the caregiver, along with the patient, has to be trained on the proper administration of that medicine, that medical device, any sort of signs for complications. The idea being the more information that the caregiver can have, the stronger that continuum of care is from the time that the patient is discharged to when they are home and getting and healing on their own. And the whole idea is we don't want folks to have to come back to the hospital because their caregiver was uninformed or they were uninformed on how best to take care of themselves in a home setting. And there's a number of pieces of data that just demonstrate that people are better off in their home, out of an institution, whether it be a nursing home or an in-care inpatient facility. Either way, people are better off in their homes where they feel secure, they're comfortable in their environment. And so the Ohio Care Act is designed to help maximize the caregiver's ability to provide that safe environment and care and access the resources they need to do that.
It sounds like a really good program, especially because a lot of elderly people, when they're ill, don't really want to leave their homes.
Well, not just elderly. I mean, don't think of just elderly. I mean, it's people in their, it's my wife who's 32, taking care of her mom who's in her early 60s. I mean, my wife actually helped give testimony on the bill, having gone through a very long, family caregiver process as a working 32-year-old newly married woman, and obviously helping her too. But so it's not just for the elderly, right? It's for people of all ages, because caregiving can be a multi-generational issue. So,
okay. Yeah. What are some other ways that AARP advocates for older adults?
So we've been very active at the state level, especially in monitoring and advocating for consumers as utility companies look at ways to raise rates or pass on costs to consumers. That's a very important issue for us in making sure that consumers are not taken advantage of by public utility companies or by different entities who are looking to make money first. That's a big part of what we do at the state level. We also work to protect Ohioans from fraud. A big part of what we now of our work is now helping Americans, Ohioans, Clevelanders stay safe from frauds and scams. It's obviously older adults are a target, and a lot of our work revolves around making sure that they have the tools necessary to know that if somebody calls and says they're your grandchild and they're in Mexico and they've been arrested and they don't want to tell their parents to send them $500 in iTunes gift cards, that's a scam, right? And so that's a big part of what we do is our work on helping fight frauds and scams, because those are significant to people, and those scams have taken a lot of money from Americans. And so it's our part of our mission to advocate on behalf of older adults and make sure that they have the tools necessary to stay safe in a situation like that and not be taken advantage of, because a lot of times people are giving over money that they've worked a lifetime to save and they're living off of. And then obviously we do a lot with volunteering. As I mentioned before, I work for my volunteers, but our volunteers are the backbone of a lot of the work that we do, whether it's lobbying a congressman, whether it's delivering Fraud Watch Network presentations. That's all done by our volunteers, we have over 1,000 volunteers working in Ohio currently. We're always looking to add more. We can always use more volunteers, but that's a big part of the work that we do being done by people who feel fulfilled in that work. And so it has a dual role of that. One, we're obviously advancing the issues and the priorities of AARP, but we're also helping our volunteers fulfill that internal mission to stand up for their peers.
Tell me how the AARP helps people get jobs.
So we have a program that's funded through the AARP Foundation, which is a little different part of the organization. I don't work with the foundation directly, but our foundation is our 501c3 arm of AARP, and they work in conjunction with the Department of Labor to organize and maintain what's called our Senior Community Service Employment Program, or for another acronym, SCSEP. And the office in Cleveland is located at 55th and Prospect. And Michelle Simcoe, who runs it, is a terrific, terrific individual. Michelle is very driven. She gets the mission of the organization and has done this for a long time. And basically, if people call Michelle's office, the SCSEP office here in Cuyahoga County, they will work with that individual. Anybody over 50 is eligible any Cuyahoga County resident is eligible to access SCSEP. And basically, they will work with one of their partner organizations, whether it's a business or a nonprofit or a local government, to place that individual in a position of interest to them, and they will pay for that individual for a time being, allowing them to transition into the job. And if the employer and the employee feel it's a good fit, then that employee then transitions to full employment through with the employer. And so that's what SCSEP does. And as I said, they're paid for through the foundation, but also a grant from the Department of Labor.
That's a lot of information.
It is a lot of information.
Well, thank you for coming on our show.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
And educating our viewers. For TV20, I'm Enrique Correa. Remember, we are age-friendly Cleveland.